Hello everyone, and here I am to share with you my very first and very own DIY garden wreath. So let's begin. So right now I have everything laid out that I need. I got my yarn that I used for my wreath. I then chose a side. I got my bobby pin, as you can see, and I use a sewing technique that I use with the yarn, as you can see. So I went inside the yarn with the bobby pin. I went through the wreath, and then now I'm measuring the leaves so that the leaves overlap the yarn that I will then sew on to the wreath, as you can see. So right now I'm trying to see where it will go and how it will fit. So now I already pulled the yarn through to make my first loop. That is within the leaves, so the leaves will be covering the yarn, and so you won't see the yarn in the front of the wreath. What I did was also I tied a knot with the yarn behind the wreath, and now I'm doing my second. So you see me using the bobby pin, pulling the yarn through the leaves, making an attempt to loop it around the leaves, under the leaves, so they won't show, and then I pulled the yarn back, and then tied the two ends. So I will do this consecutively until the 5-foot garland wreath is all around the wreath. And I will also do the overlapping, which the garland overlaps just a little bit, and I will do that for the rest of the wreath. So as you can see, the ends that I am pulling through to the wreath, I am tying them by 2. So you will see what I later do with those ends, but I don't really have a method as far as like how many inches or centimeters. I do them apart. I just kind of eyeball it. And but I am going ever so often and pulling the yarn through the wreath and under the leaves, and of course not being able to see the yarn on the front of the wreath. So I am still going. I bought my garland, my wreath, and also the floral arrangement from Walmart. So going into Walmart, I was actually going for something else, and on an aisle or two later, I guess, I saw a good selection of garland and wreaths and florals. So I decided, because I knew that I wanted to get another wreath for my door that's I wanted to go ahead and get this. So the garland was like around 10 bucks. The wreath itself was $5, and I think the floral arrangement was like $2. So I would say in total, this wreath cost me $17. So after going all around the wreath, making sure that I sewed in, quote unquote, the garland on the wreath, I decided that I took the ends like I tied before, and I went ahead and sort of like knotted them up. So I untied them because I tied them very loosely. Going around, I untied them, and now I am tying them super tight so that the garland on the wreath can stay in place. So that is what I'm doing now. I'm going back around to the strings I tied, and I am tying them very, very tight, and then knotting them up and then cutting the ends off. So now I have a super glue. So all of the ends are tied into knots in a nice neat row, as you can see. Not very messy. And I am using the super glue because I am now super gluing the knots of yarn to make sure that they kind of stay in the knots so that the wreath can stay in place. So now what I'm doing is making a small tiny hole for the command strip that's on my door so that the wreath can hang. So I am making a tiny yarn hole for the holder. Last but not least, the floral arrangement. I have this pretty pink floral arrangement I decided to put in the bushiest part of the wreath in the garland, so the place where it overlaps. And as you can see, it perfectly fit into the garland and the wreath. And I am now ready to put it on my door.